Welcome to the 76 Capital Leadership Series. My name is Wayne Kimmel, and I'm your host and also managing partner of 76 Capital. I am really excited that you took some time to join us for today's conversation and we have a really special guest. But before we get to that, real quick, as you all know, our 76 Capital Leadership Series is all about bringing on the entrepreneurs, the investors, the executives, all of the people that are really looking to push the sports industry forward and do the next thing. And that's what we're all about at 76 Capital. Of course, this show wouldn't be possible without the help of our producer back at the station, James Santor. Follow James at James Santor. You can also follow me at Wayne Kimmel all across the internet, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And of course, if you're an entrepreneur or you want to do something that's truly looking to push the sports industry forward, reach out to us at 76 Capital on all those same social channels, whether it's at 76 Capital, at Wayne Kimmel, or reach out to James as well. We are looking to hear from you, talk with you, and see how we can all work together and build something really special in the sports industry. So let's get to it. We have a great guest today on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. It is Roger Mason Jr., the co-founder of Vaunt, the former Deputy Executive Director of the NBPA. He has also played in the NBA for a number of years. We're going to talk about that. He's a UVA grad and just a really good guy. Really excited to welcome Roger Mason Jr. to our 76 Capital Leadership Series. Welcome, Roger.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Wayne. Happy to be here.
Really excited to have you on the show. And look, please don't forget, if you're out there watching or listening, you got to follow Roger Mason Jr. at Money Mace. He's a great follow and someone that I think a lot of you will really enjoy hearing all the things that he has to say in the world today across all different types of things. So that's what we're going to do here on our show, on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. We're going to look to sort of talk about all the things that Roger has done, not only just on the court and now in the business world, but also when he grew up and kind of where he was able to go from his beginnings. And that's what I'd love to hear, Roger. I'd love to hear where you grew up and kind of the backstory before you went on to UVA.
Yeah, no, sure, Wayne. So I grew up in Washington, D.C. I grew up, my dad was an ophthalmologist. Mom was actually a Latin scholar and a nurse. And it was a great place to grow up. I went to school with Chelsea Clinton at Sidwell Friends. Transferred to Good Counsel High School. Basketball became my passion. My dad passed when I was 10 years old, and I really gravitated to basketball as an escape. And before you knew it, I was pretty good, played AAU basketball with the DC Blue Devils, and had scholarship offers from pretty much everywhere, and chose to go to UVA so I could be away but still be close enough to home where my mom could come see me play. And things like that. So I love the DC area. The talent when I played in the DC Catholic League was incredible, and it was a good time.
Were there any? Did you have any specific mentors or coaches that were really influential in your early development as a basketball player?
Yeah, definitely. I think my AAU basketball coach Rob Jackson was a huge inspiration for me. When I was at Good Counsel, the coaches there, Joe McCall, Tim McKenna, and especially Steve Howes, who of course went on to be the head coach of the Catholic University. There's so many different people along the way that help you get to where you are. It's never just one person. It's never just the player. You get a lot of help along the way, and I definitely had some great coaches and mentors to help me get to this point.
And then you went on to UVA, playing in the ACC, and had a lot of success there. What were some of the things that you kind of remember? Some great times that you had at UVA, whether that was on the court or even being on that amazing campus in Charlottesville.
Yeah, I mean the campus was great. UVA was a great experience, great college to attend. As far as on the basketball court, anytime we played Duke, and the students would be out camping weeks before the game to get the best seats in the house, and we had a couple of games against Jay Williams and Duke where we upset them, and the crowd stormed the court and things like that. So that was memorable. On the flip side, we were very early playing against Gonzaga in the NCAA tournament, and we were a 5 seed somehow, which was ridiculous, and they were, I guess, what, the 9 seed, or it was one of those seedings that didn't make sense, and people didn't realize that Gonzaga, although they may be considered a mid-major, they were a powerhouse themselves, and so we got upset at the buzzer, and that's probably one of the toughest memories I have at Virginia, losing in the first round of Gonzaga. But overall, it was a great experience. I had a lot of fun going to that school.
So then you went on, and were fortunate. You got picked in the NBA draft in 2002 as the 31st pick in the draft in the second round. I mean, the second round, but 31st pick overall. I mean, that must have been unbelievable. And what was that? What did that experience? What was it like?
Yeah, honestly, the draft for me was bittersweet because I left early, projected to be a top 14th pick. And in my first workout, I dislocated my shoulder and tore my labrum. So it was one of those things where I'd already committed to come out, but it all worked out, well. I ended up playing 11 years in the NBA, and I had a great career, and I met a lot of great people.
Well, I'll tell you, 11 years in the NBA is really special. I mean, it's just, it's certainly a lot more than the usual career or the average career of an NBA player. And congratulations on all of that. And, you had the opportunity, and I guess I'd look at it as more of I guess now kind of looking back is, I wonder how you feel about how you played on a lot of different teams. You got to experience a lot of different cities, a lot of different coaches. And from a business perspective, from a networking and relationship perspective, I'm sure that was great, but it was probably tough at the same time, switching, going from city to city to city. What was that like?
I got 7 teams in the NBA that I played for. So that's 7 different cultures that I got to learn, 7 different ways that organizations from the top down operate, right? Different networks in those cities. And then I also had a year where I played in Israel. So living in Jerusalem in 2006, before there was high-speed internet and before the world was as connected as it is now, but it really gave me a chance to understand a different culture. I did Shabbat dinners with a Jewish family that I lived with at times over there. And, just being in a place with 3 of the major religions, it was a great experience. Yeah.
Can you explain what the crowds are like as compared to what the crowds are like here in the U.S.?
Well, it's no comparison, right? So it's, before I played in Israel, I played in Greece for 5 months with a team called Olympiacos. Now, you're either born a fan of Olympiacos or you're born a fan of Panathinaikos. They are arch rivals. So, you go to the arena. First of all, at the time, people are smoking cigarettes in the stands. So you got a heap of smoke everywhere before the tip-off starts. Then you've got people throwing batteries, throwing, whatever they could get their hands on down at the court because they hate the other side that much.
Yeah, I always use the example of saying it's a little bit, and I'd love to see what you think about this, a little bit like a college basketball game, the highest of levels, like a Virginia Duke game, plus a European soccer crowd, and you put 100%. Them together.
100%.
And they're singing and they're,
Yep, spot on.
What a career you had from a basketball perspective. And when you think back across the basketball days, were there certain coaches or executives that you got to know that have been influential in your career now as you're off the court and you're doing things in the business world today?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is the Spurs with Coach Popovich and definitely R.C. Buford. R.C. Buford welcomed me and Pop with open arms. But being able to see how they run their organization, the professionalism, but also understanding that, some things are bigger than basketball. Pop, I think, is great with that, with just his outtake on the world.
There's a number of things that, I think a lot of people have given you credit for in bringing, healthcare and increased benefits to retired players while you were there. But maybe to also just talk about your time there and some of the other, some of the experiences and things that you had while you were the deputy executive director there.
Yeah, it was a humbling experience. I may have quit playing a little bit early because it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I just thank Michelle Roberts and the players for putting me in a position to help be of service to them. We did a lot of great things, and Michelle and her staff continue to do great things. You mentioned the healthcare. That really, again, the players got to get the credit for that, right? Because we did a collective bargaining agreement, and the TV money had just hit. And so all these guys were going to be getting paid more money than anyone had ever thought of. And so it really was great for them to say, you know what, let's take a little bit of this money that we're getting and put it to the side, and let's take care of the generation that helped us get to this point through healthcare. And that's really how it happened. And then the NBA saw what the players were willing to do, and they contributed their half. And so here we have it. If you played, 3 years in the NBA, you're covered for life. And that really is a testament to Chris Paul and all the executive committee members that got that ratified. Creating programs was a big part of my job. So I have a passion for the transition of basketball for NBA players. And so I created a real estate symposium, a tech symposium. We actually did that in conjunction with Jeff Jordan, Andreessen Horowitz out in San Francisco. We created the first ever NBPA Tech Summit, which was a great success. We did stuff on entrepreneurship. So, really focused on helping players start thinking about what their transition looked like, figuring out, do they want to do coaching? We had a coaching program, a general manager program. So really putting together programs to help players as they look through their transition was another big part of my role.
It's interesting. Your playing career, in a way, really set you up for this type of position, because again, you got the opportunity to play in a lot of different cities, on a lot of different teams, got an opportunity to play with and against so many different guys over the years. Were there any guys that you still really stay very in close touch with or really enjoyed playing with?
Yeah, one of my favorite teammates was the guy that I looked up to actually as a high school player, and that's Ray Allen. And Ray was instrumental in me signing with the Heat my last year and making that team that had just won 2 championships in a row. Really, one of my biggest accomplishments, I think, is it's tough to go to a team that's already won it twice and are pretty settled. But, for me, Ray inspired me, as a shooter, and an opportunity to play with him, play with LeBron and D Wade and Bosh and all of those great players. He's somebody that I still stay in touch with. Tim Duncan was great to me. My days at the Spurs were my first year starting in the NBA, and hearing my name called with that guy was surreal. So he's still somebody that I really, talk to and keep in touch with at times.
Well, you certainly have had the opportunity to play with some of the elite players, not only just in your generation, but across, the NBA in general, right? And when you're in, you guys were traveling all over the country together, in the locker room, during off, kind of, when it's off season or just kind of spending time with them. Were there conversations about the off court opportunities like you were just describing and you're doing with the NBPA, and kind of were people talking about what are we going to do next, or how I'm going to get involved in different types of businesses or opportunities? Were those kind of did you have those kind of conversations?
Yeah, what's interesting, Wayne, is unfortunately for me at the time, and I guess it was a good and bad thing, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So, I was pretty focused on creating other businesses while I played. But it was actually looked at as a distraction, right? So like back then, I had, a few businesses and I would talk about it, and it was kind of looked at as like, you're not focused on basketball. And so, I probably would have played a little bit longer if I didn't have the things going on off the court. But on the flip side, I would not have had my transition as smoothly if I hadn't started really working on business types of things off the court. I think now it's a completely different day. I think players are their own brands. They're able to, show that they can do more than one thing. It's a completely different ball game. But back in my era, it was kind of frowned on to do other things outside of play basketball. With social media, exploding the way that it has over the last 5 to 7 years, and players understanding their value. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's also good for the league. I think it's good for all parties involved. Look, the more NBA players, NFL players understand business, and it helps the product overall anyway. So I think it's a great thing.
Maybe you could tell the viewers a little bit about the pictures that you have behind you.
Yeah, so this one right here is my USA basketball days. I was fortunate to represent the country in China, Beijing, against Yao Ming. We played in the World University Games, and we played the semifinals against Yao back in 2001. So we ended up losing by 1 at the buzzer. So we won a bronze medal in that one, but that's the jersey you see there. Over here, I've got my Bulls 31 jersey. I was drafted 31, so I changed my number to 31. I've got over on this side my Wizards number 8 jersey, and then over here I've got my Spurs 8 jersey as well, and then my high school Good Counsel jersey. So I got a few in my office here as well.
So after you're playing in the NBA, going to you're at the NBPA. You mentioned you had been doing a number of things off the court and in business as well. Tell us sort of about your journey from there to where you are now as a co-founder of Vaunt and what you're doing.
Yeah, so like I said, man, really diving into the group licensing rights and understanding the value of players and other opportunities that players may be able to do off the court really got me curious as an entrepreneur. And after we did our last collective bargaining agreement, I kind of knew that I wanted to maybe step out and do something entrepreneurial. I had decided to go back to school. So I went to Columbia Business School and enrolled in the executive MBA program, which was great. I did that for a year. And then I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and start Vaunt. And as I was starting Vaunt, I got a call from Ice Cube's business manager saying, look, all the players. You've been talking about doing some 3-on-3 stuff. And would you be our commissioner and president and help us start a league? So he said you could do Vaunt at the same time. And I said, you know what, let's go for it. So I created the official rules of the Big Three. I helped raise the initial capital along with the partners there, put together kind of the whole schedule, created the draft. We created a league, and it was a wonderful opportunity. It was a great thing to do at the time. Like some things, they don't work out, and we kind of split our separate ways after a couple of years, but very proud of at least starting that league. But what I realized at the time is, for me to really have the success I needed to focus on Vaunt full time and not have any other things distracting me. So it was almost a blessing in disguise. And we started Vaunt full time about 3-4 years ago. And it's been great ever since. With Vaunt, we're finalizing a partnership with FIBA that we're very excited about, that we'll be announcing soon. But yeah, I think I'm bullish on 3-on-3 overall. I think it's going to be great in the Olympics this year. So Vaunt is a sports and entertainment content and IP development platform. So we create live competitions. These competitions can be bet on. They can be sponsorship and media rights for those competitions and franchises. And then we also create content for streaming services, for media platforms, for networks. An example of one of the things that we've done recently is the Facebook World Pong League with Post Malone. And so that was celebrity beer pong with different celebrities like, Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly and Quavo and Chainsmokers and just so many great celebrities that we created that content with. That lived on Facebook Watch. It was an 8-figure deal. And it was a great deal for us to do. We got a number of deals we're working on now that we're super excited about. But we essentially create content and media and IP around athletes and entertainers.
A lot of professional athletes and entrepreneurs have very similar types of traits and have very similar type. You have to be able to be extremely, as you said, be able to persevere. You have to be able to, once you get knocked down, you got to get back up. You got to keep moving forward. You got to keep, whether it from when you were playing and it was on the court, it could be a situation where it hurt or it got hurt or had to, you just had to get back up and you get knocked down. You got to keep moving forward. In a similar kind of a situation in business, when things aren't going exactly your way, you got to figure it out. And you can't just quit. And if you do, then forget about it. But I mean, is that something that you think about as well?
100%. I think big time. One of my best friends is a partner at Goldman, and He's one of the most competitive people. So I think the competitiveness is also something that's very beneficial in business. But, I tell players and former players and current players all the time that the same intangibles that have made them great in sports, right? I love the Malcolm Gladwell book about 10,000 hours. You spend enough time on something, you become an expert at it. And I think in this case, I love what I do. And if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. And so you're going to put more time into that. And you're going to have all the intangibles that made you great in basketball, right? Like you're told no, or, the market changes and research shows that something else is working better, right? It's no different than a defensive scheme that's not working, and we got to make an adjustment in game. And, you don't have a lot of time to make that adjustment, and the consequences are you're going to lose the game. No different in business with us, right? If that pandemic hit and we didn't make the adjustment, then our company would have been in trouble. So I think having the mindset that, we got to try on different shoes and see what works. We got to be able to be nimble and figure out the best path forward. And I think there's so many intangibles that kind of go back and forth with sports and business.
As you start to think about as the growth of Vaunt and what you guys are looking to go do, we have a great, viewership audience here and listenership that listen to our podcast. Are there things that potentially our audience can help you grow your business? Are there ways that you are interested in reaching out to people right now? Because certainly using these types of resources are ways that we've certainly found a number of our guests have really helped. It's really helped grow their business as well for being on our 76 Capital Leadership Series.
Yeah, Wayne, I really appreciate that. First and foremost, thank you for having me on the show. And we've known each other for a few years now, and always a gentleman, and love what you're building. First of all, so thanks for that. I think for us, it's really going to be about awareness. We've tried to stay under the radar, and I think that's about to end now. We've got some big announcements that we're making. We've got some live competitions that will be coming to the forefront here shortly. That quite frankly, we're an engine to create alternative competitions that can be bet on. And so as we start rolling out these different competitions, just getting the word out. I think everybody saw the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. competition with pay-per-view. And if you think about Vaunt, we're creating a lot of things like that outside of fighting with some of the other sports. But I'd say that, just getting awareness out, as far as the actual company and the business, we are just closing a Series A. It's already oversubscribed. So I think we're going to be pretty good there. But outside of that, it's really just kind of opening ourselves up to the world and letting everybody know what we're doing, because we haven't done that yet.
What was it like, and what was it like as a player when people would speak about betting and sports betting? What would people say to you about that? Or
yeah, well, I had a lot of people. I had one year that I led the NBA in game-winning shots. So that was one of my biggest accomplishments in 2008, 2009 season. I had more game-winning shots than anybody, which is crazy to me. But one of those games was on Christmas Day, which is apparently a big day that people bet. I don't, whatever. And so we were down by 2, and I hit a shot against Phoenix. And so I had so many people coming up to me, either telling me that I made them a lot of money or telling me that I was the Grinch that stole Christmas, right? So that was kind of funny. And then that same year, I was fortunate to be a part of All-Star Weekend and play in the 3-point contest. And so that had been my dream since I was a kid. So I'm getting ready to go up to start the competition, and Spike Lee comes to me, and he's like, right, and I've never met Spike Lee before. And he comes to me and he's like, my money's on you today. And I looked at him and laughed, but it gave me a little anxiety. I'm not gonna lie.
Prior to when PASPA was overturned, which was the law that basically said that you could only have sports betting in the state of Nevada, as a player, you weren't allowed to really even, not only not go into a casino, but, go into a sports book and place a bet. I mean, God forbid you did that, right? I mean, your career could have been over. And now all of a sudden there's this tight relationship between the leagues and the teams. And I mean, it's just, it must be crazy for you to even think about that today.
It is. But the good news is players are making so much money that you don't worry about the same types of things that you used to back in the day, right? So I think that's one thing. I think technology is a big part of the sports betting world, and being able to have information on everyone that's placing bets and being able to trace it. I think it's protecting the players that way. And then overall, it's a big point of emphasis both with the Players Association and the NBA. So I think that because of that, they've been in front of a lot of the maybe pitfalls and cautionary tales that could happen with the sports betting. I think it's going to be what drives media over the next decade.
Roger, I got to ask you, when you look into look into the future. I mean, you've achieved so much in your short life, whether that's playing at UVA, your NBA career, the NBPA, what you did with the Big Three, now with Vaunt. What does the future look like to you? How do you want to kind of leave this, your mark on the world?
Yeah, first and foremost, for me, it's about treating everybody with respect and leaving a legacy where I'm known as a solid human being, God-fearing man. From a business standpoint, I want to build Vaunt up to be a very valuable media platform. So that's the number one goal there, and then we'll see. I have a passion towards helping athletes and players. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I love business. So there are a lot of things that could happen from that point.
Well, we certainly wish you a ton of luck. We want, hopefully Vaunt is successful and does all the things that you wanted to do. You're a good guy, and I know that you're trying to make the world a better place out there, and that's obvious with all the things that you do, and we certainly appreciate that. And if you're a viewer or a listener to this show, follow Roger Mason Jr. at Money Mace. He's someone that you want to track, and see all the things that he's doing in his career post playing in the NBA, and is really someone that a lot of the current players should really keep an eye on and kind of look up to, and as all the things that you're able to do now post your career. So I really, again, appreciate you joining our show, Roger. I wish you a lot of success and health, and hope everyone gets through this crazy pandemic. And again, thank you so much for joining.
Appreciate you having me, Wayne. You guys keep up the great work. I'm a subscriber to 76 Capital, so always great information, and love what you guys are building.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And everyone stay tuned for all the rest of the shows that we're doing here on our 76 Capital Leadership Series as we go out and we look and talk to all of the leaders in the sports industry, including the athletes, the entrepreneurs, all the executives out there. And again, thank you to Roger Mason Jr. for joining us on this week's 76 Capital Leadership Series.